Hello everyone and welcome to this week's behind the scenes devlog video, and this week I'm going to be adding a few new species into Equilinox, which I've been very much looking forward to doing. It's been quite a while since I've been able to add species into the game. Obviously before the release I was just concentrating on lots of bug fixing and balancing, which isn't the most exciting part of game development, so I'm really looking forward to this week where I get to add some new models and some new behaviours into the game. So yesterday I thought I'd get all of the bug fixes out of the way because they're not particularly exciting to show in the videos, and I think the only one worth mentioning was that I added customizable colours to the foxes and the wolves because they were missing them for some reason. But today I'm going to be getting started with adding the first new species into Equilinox, which is going to be the camel. And if you've been watching these videos for a while, you might remember that I did previously make the models for the camel and I actually added it into the game. But I never got round to implementing it properly or giving it behaviours, so it wasn't in the final release. But I want to reintroduce it to Equilinox this week because I think at the moment there's currently only one animal that can live in the desert biome, so I want to change that this week. The first thing that I had to do for the camels was to make sure that they have something to eat, because at the moment in the desert there aren't really any food sources. So I've just been altering the model for the prickly pear a bit and making some bits of it removable so that in the game the camel can now eat the prickly pear, and when it does that you can see that those parts get removed because it eats them, and then over time they will grow back. So it's a renewable food source. $20 to 2 now. And in Equilinox I've always tried to make sure that most of the animals have their own unique behaviour. So I was doing a bit of thinking about what I could do for the camel, and I have decided to implement a spitting behaviour, because camels are known to sometimes spit when they're angry or annoyed, and I thought it would be funny to have that in the game, to have the camels sometimes spitting at nearby animals. So I've just started implementing projectiles into the game, and I've been allowing the camels to shoot projectiles out of them, and you can see the very early stages of that in the game here. Next up, I've been doing a bit of vector maths to try and get the projectile to work a bit better. So firstly, I needed to make sure that the projectile always spawns in the camel's mouth, no matter how big or small the camel is. So as you can see, that is now happening. And also, I changed the shape of the projectile slightly to make it more like a water droplet, and I calculated the rotation to make sure that it always points in the direction that it's travelling in, so you can see in slow motion here how it moves kind of like an arrow through the air. The basics of the spitting behaviour are now completely finished, so in a second you'll see this adult deer on the right spitting at this poor baby deer, and as you can see the aiming is pretty good. It hits its target pretty much every time if the target's not moving, but if it is moving then it has a bit more trouble. I also added in that slight rocking animation for when it fires the spit, and you'll see that it now always turns to face the target before firing. So that's all looking pretty good now. I'll finish it off tomorrow morning with a few particle effects, but for now I need to get ready because I'm going out for dinner tonight. First up this morning, I've just been doing a bit of collision detection to test whether the spit hits an animal, and if it does, it makes a little particle effect and also damages the animal very slightly, and if the spit misses the animal and hits the terrain, it also breaks up into a little particle effect. So I think the spitting behaviour is now pretty much complete. You can see some camels and desert hares having a bit of a fight here. They're spitting more than they usually would, just for testing purposes, but it's quite fun to watch. Some of the hares here are getting a bit of a soaking. But yeah, I'm happy with this. It's turned out quite nicely, and it's obviously not the most important gameplay addition ever, but it's just nice for the camels to have some unique behaviour that no other animal has. It just makes unlocking them feel a little bit more worth it. So I've just finished trying to create the models for the coral, which was quite tricky because it turns out that coral is quite detailed and intricate, and that's a little bit hard to get across in low poly. So I tried my best, and it's probably okay for now. I'm sure I'm going to come back to this and have another go at this model and update it at some point. But for now, I'm going to add it into the game. And I'm also not sure which shop in the game it should go into, because technically it's not a plant, right? I think it's made of lots of little animals, but gameplay wise it's very much going to be acting like a plant, so I think I'm going to end up putting it in the plant shop, even though that might not technically be correct. Coming up to 5 o'clock now, and I've just been adding the coral into the game. As you can see some of it in the tropical waters over here, and I've also just been doing all of the settings for it, all of its environmental preferences, and setting the requirements for how you can evolve it. And I also just had to do the same thing for the camel, doing its environmental preferences and evolution requirements. Just had a bit more time today, so I thought I'd make one more model for the underwater biomes, which is this shell here, and you can see an example of some of them in the world right here. And I also added one more repeatable task to the game, which is a task to do with the camel's spitting behaviour. So I'm pretty much done for today, and I'm just going to make some dinner and then have a relaxing evening. Good morning everyone, it is Thursday morning, and today I'm just going to add a few more things into the game this morning, and then this afternoon I'm going to get started with testing so that I'm all ready to upload this new update to Steam tomorrow morning. So the first thing that I thought I'd do today was to actually add the slow motion mode that you saw earlier in this video into the game properly, because it could act as a kind of pause mode. A few people were mentioning that it's quite hard to click on fast moving entities like the birds, and this will obviously solve that problem. And it also looks pretty cool, especially with flying things like the bees or the butterflies. It's quite nice to see them moving very, very slowly. So yeah, I thought I'd just add it in as a bit of fun, and you can now press spacebar to go into super slow mode. Next up today, I thought I'd get started with the testing already, because this week I made a couple of tiny changes to how the save files work, so I need to be very certain that nothing bad is going to happen to people's saves. So I've just been asking the people on the Discord to send me their save files so that I can test them all out to make sure that I haven't overlooked something, but it all looks good. I'm pretty sure, I mean, I've gone through the codes loads of times and tested lots of stuff, so I'm pretty sure that it's fine, but I just want to test with actual save files to make sure that I didn't completely forget something, but so far no problems at all. One more thing for the spitting to finish off the day. If the spit hits an animal, it causes the animal to run off like that, and maybe we'll see it again if the camel has a good aim. I've just increased how angry the camel is, so you can see it's spitting a bit more than usual. You can actually genetically modify them to be more angry and spit more often, but there you go, you saw it again. When it hits an animal, the animal runs off a bit, just to add to the excitement of the hit a little bit more. So it is Friday morning, the Equilinox update is now live on Steam, so be sure to check that out if you've got Equilinox. And of course, if you haven't got Equilinox yet, you can get it on Steam right now for $9.99. and the link for the Steam page is in the description. To finish off this week, I've got something slightly different for you. I was talking earlier this week with the devs from the game Colony Survival, which is another indie game. You may have already heard of it, they've been doing really well recently, and it's a voxel based game where you command your own colony of builders, miners, farmers, guards and other colonists, expanding and improving your colony as you go, and you also need to defend it against hordes of monsters that attack your colony in the night. It's a really cool game, very strong concept, and I definitely recommend that you check it out. And as I said, I've been talking to the devs recently, and they proposed the idea of a contest, which I thought was a very good idea. So to enter the contest, all you have to do is to send me a screenshot that you've taken in Equilinox, which fits the theme Survival. And then in a week or so, I'm going to choose my 10 favourites, and each of the winners will win a free Steam key for the game Colony Survival. And the Colony Survival devs are also doing the opposite version of the contest with their game, where you can of course win keys for Equilinox. All the info about the contest is in the description, so do check that out if you'd like to enter. For this week though, that is going to be it, so thank you guys very much for watching this video. Do subscribe if you haven't already, have a fantastic week, and I will see you all next time.